Chapter 5, Episode 5, The Greening Searing. As the sun rose over Hallowville, casting warm, golden light through the trees, Sabrina and Noah stood at the heart of the town, surveying the surreal landscape that greeted them. Buildings were draped in a thick blanket of lush greenery, ivy climbing up walls and flowers sprouting from every conceivable gap. The once orderly town square now resembled a wild jungle, with oversized plants creating a bizarre and beautiful panorama. "This is unbelievable," Sabrina murmured, her vibrant green eyes reflecting the riot of colors around them. Noah nodded, a mix of awe and concern etched on his rugged features. "And it's getting worse by the minute. We need to contain this before it spreads further." The hedgehog familiar chirped in agreement, its quills glowing faintly as it sniffed the air. Sabrina reached down to give it a gentle pat, feeling a surge of determination from the little creature. "All right, let's get to work," she said, her voice filled with resolve. Sabrina quickly gathered her magic class at the library, a group of eager young students who had been learning the basics of spellcraft and magical theory. She stood before them, her eyes scanning the faces that looked back at her with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "Listen up, everyone," Sabrina said, her voice commanding attention. "We have a situation. Plants are growing out of control all over town, and we need your help to contain them." A murmur of surprise and anticipation rippled through the room. Sabrina continued, her voice steady and confident. "I'll teach you a few plant control spells. These are basic but effective in managing overgrowth. We need to work together to keep this under control." The students eagerly gathered around as Sabrina demonstrated the spells. She moved with grace and precision, her fingers tracing intricate patterns in the air as she chanted the incantations. The students watched intently, mimicking her movements and repeating the words. "Excellent," Sabrina said, a small smile playing on her lips. "Now, let's split up and tackle different areas of town. Remember to work in pairs and stay in constant communication." With renewed determination, the students fanned out across Hallowville, their voices echoing as they chanted the spells. Sabrina watched them go, feeling a sense of pride and hope. She knew that together they could manage the chaos. However, as the day wore on, it became clear that containing the overgrowth was more challenging than they had anticipated. The plants seemed to grow faster than they could be controlled, sprouting in the most unlikely places. Sabrina and her students worked tirelessly, their magic flickering through the air as they struggled to keep up. "This is insane," one of the students muttered, trying to coax a vine back into the ground. "It's like the plants have a mind of their own." Sabrina nodded, her eyes scanning the erratic growth. "They're following the magical energy. We need to find the source and cut it off." Guided by her magical senses and the hedgehog familiar, Sabrina traced the source of the accelerated growth to several ley line intersections scattered throughout the town. The air hummed with magical energy, the ley lines pulsing with an intensity that was almost palpable. "The ley lines are amplifying the spring magic," Sabrina murmured, her eyes narrowing as she studied the pulsing energy. "This is why the plants are growing so rapidly." Noah, who had been coordinating the efforts to contain the overgrowth, joined Sabrina at one of the ley line intersections. His eyes scanned the glowing lines of energy, a mix of concern and determination etched on his face. "We need to stabilize these lines," he said, his voice steady. "If we can contain the magical energy, we can slow down the growth." Sabrina nodded, her sharp intellect formulating a plan. "We'll need to perform a stabilization ritual. It's complex but necessary to balance the magic." With Noah's help, Sabrina gathered the necessary materials and set to work. They chanted intricate spells, their voices blending together as they wove a web of magical energy around the ley lines. The air crackled with power as they worked, the stabilization ritual slowly taking effect. "It's working." Sabrina breathed, a sense of relief washing over her as she felt the ley lines beginning to settle. The energy is stabilizing. But as they finished the ritual, an unexpected disturbance suddenly drew their attention. One of Sabrina's students let out a startled cry, her voice echoing through the quiet streets. "What's going on?" Noah asked, his eyes scanning the area for any signs of trouble. Sabrina's expression turned serious. "Let's find out." They rushed to the source of the commotion, finding a small group of students huddled together, their eyes wide with shock. At the center of the group stood an enormous topiary, shaped like a giant rabbit. The topiary was animated, its branches moving like limbs as it hopped away from the students. "What happened?" Sabrina asked, her voice filled with concern. One of the students stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "I was practicing a control spell, and suddenly it just came to life." One of the students stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "I was practicing a control spell, and suddenly it just came to life." Noah nodded, his eyes fixed on the hopping topiary. "We need to contain it before it causes more trouble." The students watched in awe as Sabrina and Noah worked together, their magic flickering through the air as they attempted to stop the topiary. But the animated creation was surprisingly agile, hopping away towards the forest with remarkable speed. "It's heading for the woods," Sabrina said, her voice filled with urgency. "We need to follow it." With the students in tow, Sabrina and Noah set off after the topiary, their magic guiding them along its trail. The hedgehog familiar led the way, its quills glowing brightly as it tracked the path of the animated creation. As they moved deeper into the forest, the trail of magical energy grew stronger, leading them to the very edge of the woods. Sabrina's senses tingled with the intensity of the energy, her sharp intellect piecing together the connections. "This energy is linked to the missing artifact and the ley lines," she murmured, her eyes scanning the dense foliage ahead. "The topiary must be following the same source." Noah nodded, his hand resting on his belt, ready to draw his weapon if needed. "We need to find out what's causing this imbalance and stop it." As they ventured deeper into the woods, the trail of magical energy became increasingly apparent. The air hummed with power, the trees and flowers growing denser with each step they took. Sabrina's magic flickered through the air, guiding them along the path left by the animated topiary. "It's definitely heading this way," Sabrina said, her voice filled with determination. "We need to catch up to it." Noah nodded, his eyes scanning the forest for any signs of danger. "Stay alert. We don't know what we might encounter out here." The students followed closely behind, their magic flickering through the air as they worked together to track the topiary. The hedgehog familiar led the way, its quills glowing brighter with each step they took. As they moved deeper into the forest, they began to notice strange occurrences. Flowers that seemed to turn and watch them as they passed, vines that appeared to reach out towards them, and the faint sound of laughter echoing through the air. "This place is full of powerful magic," Sabrina whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. "I can feel it pulsing through everything." Suddenly, the trail of magical energy led them to the edge of a clearing. In the center of the clearing stood the animated topiary, its branches swaying gently as it waited for them. Sabrina's eyes narrowed as she studied the creation, sensing the immense power that had brought it to life. "It's guarding something," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. "We need to find out what's at the heart of this energy." Noah nodded, his hand tightening around his weapon. "Let's approach carefully. We don't know what else might be out here." As they stepped forward, the air around them grew thick with anticipation. The topiary seemed to sense their presence, its branches moving with purpose as it prepared to defend whatever it was guarding. Sabrina raised her hands, her magic flickering through the air as she prepared to cast a spell. But before she could act, the topiary suddenly lunged forward, its branches lashing out with surprising speed. Noah reacted quickly, drawing his weapon and stepping in front of Sabrina to protect her. The students gasped in surprise, their magic flickering through the air as they moved to defend themselves. "We need to contain it," Sabrina said, her voice filled with urgency. "Everyone, use your control spells." The students chanted their spells, their magic flickering through the air as they worked to subdue the animated topiary. Sabrina and Noah added their power to the mix, their combined magic slowly beginning to take effect. The topiary struggled against the restraints, its branches thrashing wildly as it fought to break free. But with each passing moment, the control spells grew stronger, the students' combined power overcoming the animated creation's resistance. Finally, with a last, desperate struggle, the topiary collapsed, its branches falling to the ground with a rustle of leaves. The air seemed to sigh with relief as the magical energy settled, the intense power slowly dissipating. Sabrina stepped forward, her eyes scanning the clearing for any sign of the missing artifact. As she approached the center of the clearing, she suddenly paused, her breath catching in her throat. "There it is," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. At the heart of the clearing stood a magnificent tree, its branches twisting and turning in intricate patterns. Carved into the trunk was an enormous scepter, its surface shimmering with magical energy. "This must be the source of the imbalance," Sabrina murmured, her eyes filled with determination. "We need to retrieve it and restore the balance." Noah nodded, his eyes scanning the clearing for any signs of danger. "We should be careful. Whoever stole this might still be out here." As they prepared to approach the tree, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, carrying with it an ominous chill. The air seemed to darken, the trees and flowers around them suddenly taking on a sinister hue. A shadowy figure emerged from the dense foliage, its eyes glowing with the same eerie green light they had seen before. The figure's voice echoed through the air, dripping with malice. "You have found the source, but you are too late," the figure hissed, its voice sending a shiver down their spines. "The scepter is mine, and soon Hallowville will be as well." Sabrina stood her ground, her voice steady and resolute. "Not if we have anything to say about it." Noah drew his weapon, his eyes locked on the ominous figure. "We won't let you corrupt our town." The figure laughed again, a sound that seemed to reverberate through the very air. "Foolish mortals, you are no match for my power, but I will enjoy watching you try." With those words, the figure vanished into the shadows, leaving Sabrina and Noah to brace themselves for the battle that lay ahead. The fate of Hallowville was in their hands, and they knew that they would have to give it their all to protect their home and restore the magical balance. As Sabrina and Noah prepared to confront the dark force that had claimed the scepter, the shadowy figure's laughter echoed through the forest, sending a chill down their spines. The battle for Hallowville's future was about to begin, and the stakes had never been higher. With the students and the hedgehog familiar by their side, Sabrina and Noah braced themselves for the confrontation ahead, knowing that they would need all their combined strength and determination to triumph. The clearing seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with tension as the group prepared to face their greatest challenge yet. The scepter glowed with an otherworldly light, pulsing with the magic that had wrought such chaos in their beloved town. "Together, we can do this," Sabrina whispered, her voice filled with resolve. Noah nodded, his eyes locked on the scepter. "For Hallowville." As they stepped forward, the air seemed to shimmer with anticipation, the very essence of the forest itself, waiting to see how this battle would unfold. The fate of their town hung in the balance, and they knew that they would give it their all to restore the equilibrium and protect their home.